When you first open an image inside of Adobe Photoshop, it has an interface similar to this one. It has this dark gray background that just wants to put me to sleep. It opens up a bunch of palettes over there on the side, and most of which I don't even use. And in no way does it show you how to actually move any of these palettes around or organize this in a way that's most useful for you. So I'm going to start with some super basics to try and sort out this interface so it's more user-friendly for you to get started with. Simply, all of the palettes that can be found over here can also be found under Window, and then here are those ones as well as many others that you have to choose from. And even ones that are just icons, you click on them and a palette comes out the side. Same thing with this. And to me, I don't want to be clicking on palettes to make things come out, and I don't want things hidden under other things and things that I'm not even using, and basically it just hurts my head. So I'm going to show you a basic way to move these around and then reorganize them for yourself. Simply, if you click on one of these icons, you can then click the title of it and click and drag it. And that pulls it away from where it was. When you let go, now it's a self-contained entity that can be moved around freely. Now notice that we have this long bar right here. That long bar can either do the same thing where I showed that you click the icon and move the palette itself based off of the name, or if you notice that there is this little bar here, I can click the bar and pull it, and that will release the icon from where it was. And then you notice that we have this little double arrow here. And simply, if I click the double arrow, it opens it up. Okay? Over here we have a double arrow. I click it, it shrinks it in. So this is the different ways that we can make things bigger and smaller. However, I don't actually use them because I set up my palettes so that only the ones that I use are left open, and most of them are closed because I very rarely, if ever, use them. So to get started, I'm going to take all of these palettes by clicking on the name and dragging them off from where they are currently. And I let it go and it becomes a self-contained palette that can be moved around. So I'm going to grab this one, I'm going to bring it over here, this one I'm going to bring it over here, pull all these off so that I can then rearrange them all afterwards. Okay, now that I have them all as self-contained entities, there are ones that I do use that aren't even here. Now I'm going to recommend that you set yours up the same way. This way, when we go forward with the rest of the class, you will have the same settings that I do, and it'll be very easy for you to find what you're looking for. Click on Window, Info. It may or may not open up conjoined with something else. Simply do the same thing. Click on the name and drag it off. Let go. Now we have a loose info palette. And notice down here it has this little gray area. And that means that we can drag the corner and make it bigger and smaller. So I'm going to close it up as much as it can go. Then I'm going to take it and put it up here in the top corner. Now you don't need yours as high up as mine is. I'm simply working on limited space. So after we have the info palette, I'm going to double click on the name itself. That sucks it up. If I double click the name again, it opens it up. So I'm going to double click it and it gets sucked up. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is come over to layers. And I'm going to take my layers palette, click the name and drag it. Now when I come right up here, notice that it has that blue line. That means that I can let go and it's going to add it to this menu that already exists. In this case, it's info. So I'm going to let go, and notice how here we have info and layers. Okay. Now I'm going to take the history palette, which is another one I use, and I'm going to click on the name and I'm going to drag it. Now instead of coming down to the bottom where it adds that blue line, I'm going to come up right next to the word layers, and then the whole box gets highlighted. And then when I let go, it's going to drop it in as a tab. So one tab is layers, the other tab is the history palette. Okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this properties one. I'm going to close it up a little bit, and then I'm going to click on the name and I'm going to bring it up here. Now notice it's still by itself. I'm not connecting it to anything. I'm not joining it. I'm just leaving it loose. I'm simply showing you how this can work. I don't need most of these, like styles, paths, channels, even color and swatches can be closed. I do, however, use adjustments, and we will be using that later on in this class. So let's just take adjustments and move that so that we get the blue line and let go. Now it drops it in underneath here. Now on your screen, if you have plenty of room, simply take the properties and you can conjoin it to the bottom of adjustments, and now you can have a nice long single palette. These are the ones that you will be using going forward: info, layers, history, adjustments, and properties. If you have other windows open, it just leads to confusion. I watch students all the time, they have these palettes open, things are stuck to things, and it's very difficult to work. Notice that in this case, I have one single bar at the top. That's it, just one. And this one bar is then connected to info, and then info is connected by layers and history, and then adjustments, and then properties. If I want to keep this, like if I put this down here and I want to keep it, I can click here where it says Essentials, and I can come down here to New Workspace. And if I do that, I can give it a name, right? So for example, AOR for Art of Retouching. I can name it whatever I want. And then when I click Save, it's going to save a variant of that. So let me just do that, V2, and click Save. Now, that means that I can take these palettes and I can move it over here, I can move it over here, I can do this, I can do whatever I want to these, right? It totally and completely doesn't matter. As soon as I set Reset, everything jumps right back to where it was before, which is really cool. Now, when I actually work, I use a layout like this one. Now, in this case, it's set up perfectly for the classes that I teach. Yours doesn't have to be this way, doesn't matter at all. Simply, this allows me to have everything on the screen as well as the video here so that you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. One more thing I'm going to show you with this, we have this history here is on the other side of layers. I can click one of them and drag it to the other side and let go. Very simple, very easy. I'll show you this tool palette does the exact same thing. You can slide it out, you can click the arrows, you can click the arrows, and you can grab the bar and simply put it back. Okay, there is nothing strange or fancy about that one as opposed to all these others.